My name is Kim Del Valle Walker, and this is the first video for Applied Mystical Matters. I decided to begin with purification, smudging, and clearing practices because I think it's really important before we go into any type of mystical matters that we come in with a pure heart, good intentions, and that we're not bringing a bunch of negative crap into any kind of ceremony or process or prayers or meditation that we're doing. It's really important to clear yourself and to clear your space. So I'm going to begin with a practice that has been going on for centuries across the world in a bunch of different religions and practices. Like, I grew up Catholic, and if you grew up Catholic, do you remember the priests coming through with their censers, and they'd have the frankincense and myrrh and the gold things on the chains that they'd swing all over? Basically, they were smudging and purifying the congregation. This isn't much different, just different kind of techniques. And whatever you feel comfortable with doing or adopting or using or don't feel comfortable with, don't do it. If you find something that you like, go ahead and give it a try. You don't have to make it overly complicated. It can be as simple as just using incense. Like in the beginning, like years ago, like when my first son was born, I would just take frankincense and myrrh incense, and I would go around and clear everything and start at the top or the bottom, whichever feels right for you. But start facing east and then work your way in a clockwise direction and go around your space. And you can even say like a mantra or a chant. Like if you want to say something like, anything that does not serve my highest good is not welcome here. Only love or protection or peace or whatever. And kind of go around and make sure that you clear all of that energy. Another way to do it is a lot of people are into buying smudge sticks. I don't purchase smudge sticks myself per se because I grow sage. And I wrap it sometimes and make smudge sticks, and it's really important if you decide to do that, that while you're wrapping it, that you're saying prayers and putting intention into it. Everything in mystical matters has a lot to do with your intentions. But the reason a lot of people use a shell is because it represents water. Sage represents earth. The fire represents fire. And then, if you have a feather, and it doesn't have to be a fancy feather, it could be a fan from the Dollar Tree. It could be your hand. But then the feather or your hand is representing the air. Same concept. If you're going to smudge somebody, smudge them, have them turn around, do the whole person. If you're going to smudge a room, same thing. Start in the east, end in the east, go all the way around from the east to the south, to the west, to the north, and purify and clear someone. Another thing that you can use is Palo Santo. A lot of people have been using this lately too. Palo Santo stands for holy wood. And basically it's the same thing. Again, it's like you're putting this holiness or this intention or this cleansing or this clearing into your motivation for doing this. So that's kind of that. But the other thing you could do is you can buy resins at certain places. Like you could buy frankincense resin and that kind of thing. And a lot of people use charcoal. And this is why you'll see some people with cauldrons, because if you're using charcoal, it gets really hot. It generally comes in little packages like this. It comes as a little disc. You start it on fire, you let it get hot. You're going to want a set of tongs with this so you can pick it up or move it around or get off some of the ash on it. And then what you're going to do is you can use your sage, you can use sweetgrass, you can use different herbs and things, sprinkle them on, and it's kind of the same concept. But you want to make sure that if you use charcoal, you've got something heavy. You want to be safe when you're using fire, of course. But all these different things will purify and cleanse you or an area. Another thing that you can use, there's a reason that they call it holy water. Remember the priests that would come through with those things and they'd spray everybody with the holy water? And in some of the Peruvian shamanic practices, they spray people with Florida water from their mouth. Sometimes people use tobacco, but that's not so much the water. But you can do the same thing. You can use moon water that you leave like in a mason jar during a full moon, out in the full moon. And then Reiki. You could take Reiki. Now Reiki is an actual technique that people are trained to do, but you could hold your moon water or even the water that you're going to drink, hold it in your hands and try to send positive healing energy to it, and then you could pour it into a spray bottle and then just spray your way around and clear everything. That being said, you could also use oils. So you can use, oh, this is getting pretty smoky. You can use different oils to cleanse your area as well. Or infuse them in there, like frankincense oil, myrrh oil. Sorry, I still got things going out with my eyes and ointment all in them. Another thing you can use is sound. So if you think of wind chimes and witches' bells that would be hung up, those were to keep evil things away and for protection. And you can also use them for clearing energy. So it's the same thing. Start in the east, work your way around, do the tops and the bottoms, and get the corners really good, and then work your way around back to the east. You can use tingsha bells. You could use a singing bowl. Now, one of the things I discovered once I learned to use my singing bowl, and I don't know how or why this is, but I would start clearing drum circles or circles outside, going around people and cleansing them with this. And for some reason, it would make a different sound, or I would feel the sound, and other people could hear it. It would be different when somebody had something going on, like in their lower back or their kidneys or their leg or their ankle or their heart. And for some reason, I just knew that I knew, and I don't know how. But that may happen for you too. So when you're going around doing a cleansing or a clearing on a person or a space, make sure that you pay attention to any sound diffraction as well. Which brings me to a drum. There's a reason that people do certain drum rhythms or do certain drum places. And that's another thing that you can use to go around and do a cleansing and a clearing. Again, start clockwise. And then another thing in my culture that a lot of people use are rattles. Or you could even use a rain stick if you hold it sideways. So what you're doing is you're starting at the top of someone and you're like washing off any negative things that need to be removed from them. The other thing is you can do this in a room or a space. And another thing in my culture that people do, it's called Olympia, which is the same. It's in Spanish, it means to cleanse or to purify. So it's the same thing, but you can take herbs and plants, not dried ones like this, and then take them and brush them off of people's bodies. And I'll do that sometimes when I'm smudging people too. When I'm going around and smudging them, I will touch them with it. And sometimes I feel like I need to touch a person's heart. And then I have them turn around. And then when I'm done, I usually pat them on the shoulder. So there's different ways that you can do that too, using sound, water. A lot of people, you know, what do they call them? The swirling dervishes. A lot of people will also use movement, but it's more of a meditative thing. You almost need to be purified before you do something like that. I also want to share with you a movie that I saw called Earthing, the movie. And basically it's about grounding. And you know, a lot of us are like, well, yeah, I went barefoot my whole life. You know, what's the big deal? Well, what they've done is they've discovered science that's behind it and how the grounding will take rid of anxiety and different electrical stimuli that overstimulates us and ground it into the earth. So it's important to get barefoot on the earth as much as possible. I live in Wisconsin, so if you can't do that, like I can't this winter, they make a thing called a grounding mat. It's available on Amazon, and I think I paid like $42 for this one. It has a grounding mat about this big, and you put the prong on here, you plug it into the ground wire in your outlet, make sure I can only do it in one room of my house because nothing upstairs is grounded because we live in an old farmhouse. But you just plug the ground prong into the wall and you hook it up to your grounding mat and put your bare feet on this. I noticed recently that they're selling another one that's a little bigger, which I think would be optimal for putting in your bed and sleeping on. Another thing, speaking of electronics and things like that, it's always a good idea to have your cell phone, if you're not using it for an alarm clock, to try to get as many electronics out of your bedroom and your space when you're sleeping as possible. I think I've covered a multiple of ways for everybody to cleanse and clear their space and their person. And I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have comments, additional help that you can give to others as far as grounding techniques or things that you found that work for you, please put them down in the comments, and please feel free to share those. And I hope you come back for the next video. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.